they don't have nothing to do with. Like,
Bro.
Smitty and AJ Brown don't go out there and tackle for y'all.
My thing is like you said, you're right. Like any team is without their top 2 wide receivers, they're definitely going to be in trouble on an offensive standpoint. But it's the defense. They don't affect the defense. The defense was getting dotted up crazy. Like, before I even checked, like every time I checked, new scorer, like, new Buccaneers in the red zone again. Bucky Irvin with another like 20-yard rush. But we gonna get into that. I'm not even about to waste my time talking about that team. But overall, I just wanted to ask you, like, speaking on a general point, how do you feel about like quarterbacks even getting like big contracts these days? Like, bro, all it takes is one good season. I can't even say a season. What I saw last season, Jordan Love, he turned up for like what? The last 7 to 8 games of the season, took the Packers to the divisional round, and they threw him a big bag. So how do you feel about quarterbacks getting that money off small stretches of good play?
I think, well, for one, Jordan Love case, he's set for 3 years. I feel like he definitely benefited from playing behind Rodgers. I feel like you'll definitely always benefit from playing behind the great, learning his ways. I feel like he got some Rodgers in him in terms of like creating ability, being able to make every throw. I do think none of us thought the Packers were going to make the playoffs.
I didn't.
We have to give him, some credit for, taking that team to the playoffs. I think he finished second or third in touchdowns on the year. So I'm not mad. And it was his 4th year, like you say, he sat out 3 years. So this is his 4th year. They had to pay him where he would have walked. So like, I understand that one, but just from a standpoint, like, I feel like a lot of teams are saying like if you want to win a championship, the window is the quarterback's first 3 to 4 years.
Rookie contract.
Because that's when they're the cheapest, and then you can just build around. That's why they want to see stuff like Mahomes. They want to see stuff like Burrow, where early in their career they can take you far, and you're able to pay all these dues. Because now you're seeing, boom, other teams who's not able to pay everywhere. You feel me?
Right.
Like for their team needs, you could go. I think an interesting, John, is though, like, let's take like Tom Brady, who consistently took pay cuts, and you see Mahomes following that same route.
He is going that route.
I think teams should start looking in there. I don't know if these dudes are gonna do that. It's too much money to give up.
It's a big sacrifice.
It's too much money to give up.
Life-changing money you passing up on the table. I ain't gonna lie.
But it's like, it's the reason those dudes still at the top. They had solid pieces around, and you see the Chiefs. Their offense is solid, but the defense is the reason they're winning games right now. It's the defense, and they were able to bring back Chris Jones. Like, imagine they lost Chris Jones. This looks like a whole different team.
New defense,
new year. Like,
lacking leadership too on that side.
Like, so I definitely think it is understandable, but teams should start, and quarterbacks should start looking into, taking a few less bucks.
How do you feel about the other side of it? So you see in Jacksonville, after Trevor Lawrence won that game against the Chargers in the playoffs, that big comeback a couple years ago, they gave him the bag. I'm pretty sure they gave him the bag this year too. Last year it was pretty discouraging, but I'm pretty sure it was coming off last year where, boom, after the Chargers year, they came off, they missed the playoffs. You remember they were leading the AFC South, I believe.
They were 8-3.
They were 8-3, and they just fumbled it away. That coming off the year before, I get why people kept the security, but it's one of those things where now you're coming into this season, they're the only winless team. Like, even teams like the Panthers, the Raiders, the Browns, they're in the win column. And the fact that they're 0-4 is like, you're kind of regretting that Trevor Lawrence contract. I mean, he came into the league highly touted, the number 1 overall pick. They thought he was going to be way better. Not saying he fully sucks right now, but it's a lot to be desired on his play. But even not only him, Daniel Jones coming off when he took the Giants to the playoffs, was due for an extension, gave him that bag, and looking back, that's probably one of the worst things that could have happened is him proving that he could be okay for a year, trick the Giants into paying him, and now they're stuck where they couldn't really trade up for a quarterback this year because he's coming off a fresh deal. Like, you can't give up that type of capital when you're paying a quarterback that much. So overall, like, it's a risky thing, but like at the end of the day, it just comes down to whether you believe you got your guy, because we see some teams, they just recycle quarterbacks. You know what I mean? Like,
and that's a big thing. I definitely, and I think it goes case by case. Like, something like Daniel Jones, if I was in the Giants GM position, I probably wouldn't have paid him that much. Just off the simple fact that, boom, okay, you had a nice year, but I've seen you 3 years before as well. Like, you got to look at your whole body of work when you're trying to pay them. I think, I don't know if I would give Daniel Jones that much, but getting another chance at it, that wasn't bad, especially with day ball first year, so
Right.
I'm not mad at it, but I definitely think it was a little bit overpaid. But I think it's definitely case by case.
Right, don't get me wrong. Like you said, like the 3 years before that, Daniel Jones wasn't promising like at all.
At
if
all.
we're being honest,
At
but
all.
that year was like, okay, new coach. He's probably moving into the right direction. But like you said, I probably would have been a little bit more cautious with that.
Mm-hmm.
I think the fact that ownership saw the Giants in the playoffs in the first time in a few years, they got too ahead of themselves, gave him a bag, which led to other players like Xavier McKinney walking. They couldn't afford to pay him, or Saquon Barkley, losing good players on both ends of the floor like that, because now you're handicapped with a mediocre at best quarterback. It's an unfortunate situation, but like you said, it's case by case. It's just about being cautious about when you're giving out that bag, because you can even see with Philly. I mean, if we being honest, like, I don't want to turn the tides too much, but coming off Super Bowl 57 and overall that whole 2022 season, Jalen Hurts, he looked like a top 3 quarterback that in the league that season. I'm gonna say it. I think he was top 3 that season. That was his best stretch of football. At this point,
I don't disagree.
are we at the point to where are we questioning whether he could ever top that play again? Because I mean, you gave him the money, you thought that he could replicate that. You go into last year, you were 10-1. You flew that off. That was just a disappointing end of the year. We're not even gonna get deep into that, but overall now it's like you're giving Hurts a bag. And don't get me wrong, like you said, it's case by case, because the Eagles GM Howie Roseman, he's great with working the numbers. He gets ahead of the market. So
I would say his last season.
Right. So he gets ahead with that, but not every GM knows how to do that. Some GMs like John Lynch in San Francisco, they wait until August to pay their best player like a Brandon Ayuk or a Trent Williams. So I would just say overall, like you said, it's case by case, but with every quarterback, you just got to be cautious regardless. Unless you got a Mahomes, then you know, like, break the bank.
Yeah, I mean, but Mahomes don't come around too often, you know.
Right.
I definitely think that Hurts, like, it's definitely not that he's, I guess, regressed. You mean having your best year, that means you had your best year. Like, that was the best he's ever played. Like, to live up to that level again, you're not going to do that consistently. That's you basically saying, all right, be a, top 5 player every year. Maybe he's not that, but he's definitely still, a top 10-ish quarterback. It's not all him that the Eagles look like this right now.
Right.
But he's definitely playing a part, though. Like, he could be playing better. I don't like his ball security. It's like when he rolls left, bad things are about to happen. I've noticed that about Hurts. I've been seeing a lot of commentary about that. When he starts to roll left, bad things start to happen. Whether it's the fumble, whether it's inaccurate throws, something I've noticed.
It's just too much indecisive play, in my opinion. Like, too turnover prone, not really making the best with what you have. I feel like so far as what we've seen and the small sample size that we do have, Jalen Hurts without A.J. Brown, I'll say beginning the 2022 season, I'm not going to count him against before he got A.J. because he was still raw. He was still figuring out the offense, still figuring out Nick Sirianni. They were getting in things with chemistry, but...
So, I'm sorry to cut you off, too, but I definitely want to see what he would have looked like with A.J. during that time. But, bro, another thing I wanted to mention, remember 2020 and 2021? This dude was like Justin Fields. Like, remember he wasn't, like, not scared, but he was running through contact. He was juking people. He
trusts his legs way more.
Bro, he not confident running the ball no more. He don't try to fight for no yards. He go down 2 yards short. I'm like, bro, he used to be running through
mileage. And I know that's crazy to say. He's like 4 or 5 years in.
Mileage, bro. I can't. Like, I feel like he just got a different mentality now. He trying to be more of a passer, bro.
Right.
You got the legs, you got the athleticism to be the running. Like at Alabama, you was a runner. You finished second in Heisman Rowan at Oklahoma when you was a running quarterback. Like, he had, like, I want to say 10 plus touchdowns that year. Like, running, he needs to, and not just the touch push. He needs to get back into, more read options, more putting your head down. Like, he has that ability to where he can be like a Justin Fields or a Josh Allen after he gets out the pocket.
But is that Sirianni led too?
That's
because my thing is, like, overall, even with Kellen Moore, I'm not going to get too much into Kellen Moore because I truly feel like Nick Sirianni still has his imprints on the offense. I don't think Kellen Moore has full reign. I don't think Vic Fangio has full reign on his scheme either. It's just a sticky situation. And now, I don't know if you saw on Twitter, you got Darius Slay hopping on podcasts with Micah Parsons. Like, what do we... like, I get it. It's more than football. Like, that might be a guy in real life. Like, it's more than just the Eagles-Cowboys rivalry. But coming off a week like that is just... you're the veteran. You're the vet of the defensive locker room. Like, that threw me off, like, fully. Now he blocking guys on Twitter, account private. I mean, we're not gonna get
CJ blocking people.
Yeah,
bro,
CJ like.
Oh man.
I mean, I respect CJ. Not saying I don't respect Slay, but I'm a big fan of CJ. Like I know he has. He got a wild mouth sometimes. Like he could just he chirps for sure. But overall, I like CJ. I like his attitude. I like the swagger he brings.
He's definitely a good player.
Not perfect, but he can make a play when it's time to need to make a play. But